Okay, so there's a lot of good stuff happening in this video, and the problems are fairly obvious and should be relatively simple to fix. If not, it's not really going to be easy, but it's going to be simple to fix. So let me show you what I'm talking about. Um, Generally speaking, I really liked your aggression level here. I liked how hard you're pushing. Um, I think when you get sort of sorted out in terms of where you want to push and where you don't, the results are going to be quite excellent. And yeah, okay, well, let's get to the specific parts. Minor issue. Actually, I'll start with the big issue. And it's the obvious one. It was all the penalties and sort of the rushing. So if I'm reading your written right, you had this malfunction, you sort that out, okay, gun comes back up, and there's a penalty there somewhere. Likely due to you missing and rushing. Then over here, watching you shoot these plates, it's actually a little bit infuriating. Okay, so that gets sorted out. Now watch your shooting on the plates here, which I'm sure you've had a hard think about this. So what just happened there was that's a normal thing that happens when you're doing a lot of dry fire. You don't get a lot of chance for live training, and you're pushing hard to go fast. And you know, it's a lot of extra shots. So I have to assume that your accuracy on any shots with any difficulty were not exactly what they should be. And the solution is tougher targets in dry fire and be even more demanding on your sight picture for that target type in dry fire. It's as simple as that, but you haven't been doing live practice to really confirm and back this up. Generally speaking, I'd say, like, here's another example when the unloaded start here. So I don't know how much you practice that, but you look rushed to me. What I mean is you rack the gun, you're pushing the gun out before you even get your support hand down to the gun. So you can see here the gun's at full extension, but you don't even have your support hand on it yet. So that makes you look very rushed. Okay? So when you have that happen, and here, this target with 3 shots on it, that should never happen. Never. Watch this full speed. Where you pop around the wall and it's going whop 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 on a target of this risk level, and I think still ending up with a miss. That's what we don't want. We don't want that stuff happening. So the number one thing that you could do is be more careful. Like, don't shoot as aggressively if the targets have any risk level. If you're doing things like unloaded starts, it doesn't have to be the fastest unloaded start you've ever done. You just need to get the mag in the gun and get the gun loaded without making any mistakes. I mean, this is obvious, but this is the number one thing you have to fix is don't rush on the tough shots. Make your dry training tougher. Now, in terms of minor criticisms, your footwork generally looked good. So I'm watching this, gun up, ready to go. You know, you're up on these targets. This generally looks pretty good. But we could clean up a couple things here. Okay? Now what I'd like to see is you keep pushing into these targets and then take a more rounded approach. Kind of round your way around this so that you can maintain motion. You can keep going. So I think a good way to put this is you have a good idea of the basic technique is gun up, ready to go, coming into a position. But this is one of those things where you have to blend one position into the next. And you see you have that hard stop. This, again, this is a discipline issue. You're getting on the trigger too early coming into the target, almost certainly. But the basic part of that is you're moving quickly, shooting quickly, and your gun's up, ready to go. You know, again, just more practice blending positions together and being more patient as you come into position. That'd be what has to happen. Here's another thing I should point out to you. Like this, the way your feet are here, this close together, this shouldn't really happen. So this again would be a blending positions together type of a thing. Now you step around well, but I think you just came over too far and got caught in a bad position. You pushed too aggressively out of this port, moved too far, and then your feet were stuck in an awkward position. Instead, what I'd like to see, I mean, the more efficient way to run this would be here, your gun barely drops down. Right? So your gun's dropped down quite a bit. Instead, it should barely drop down, and you just transition from the port right over to this inside target, and then maybe even not stop moving while you shoot these low-risk targets, continue stepping over, and then finish out the stage, working this set of targets. Most of this match looks pretty much the same way. The first person footage here is quite telling. This is very spicy to try and keep moving on this. I like that you're doing it, it's just very spicy. One thing with the constant misses on the last target, I mean, if I'm reading right what you're saying, there was a miss here. Let's see, I would suspect it's the second shot. This one, I'm going to just check real quick. First shot. Yeah, it looks to me like the gun aligned lower. Or, I'm sorry, the gun lined up higher. So a lot of times what people start doing, especially when they've been doing a lot of dry fire, is you relax their hands as they fire the last shot because they're in a hurry to stop the clock. That would be what I suspect is going on here. Again, this here, this is another thing that wouldn't happen, shouldn't happen. Now that looked to me a bit, well, unstable as you came in is the best way to put it. Feet too close together, not really quite stable. Because this is a complicated position here. This is a complicated set of targets to shoot. So I think some practice on more complicated positions is in order. One good drill to look at would be hitting the spot in the live fire movement drill section, and you can set that scenario up very complicated to try to simulate these type of things and work on always having yourself in a good advantageous position you can move out of. Okay, so what would I say to do? Well, hitting the spot drill is one to help work on the movement positioning. Your basic technique looks good, but blending positions together or more complicated sorts of things don't look very polished or refined in a real match. So I think you're at a place where you're doing a good job on the basic part of it, but you just want to make your training a little more complicated so you kind of learn how to make it work in a real match. And then your dry training, you have got to make difficult targets more difficult for your dry training and make sure that you're stopping the dot on them. You might want to think about it like, hey, don't slow down in your dry training. It's not about that, but just make sure your dot's exactly in the center of your desired aiming area, like on steel or on partial targets, where the dot has to be precisely there because the accuracy is not where you want it to be for a match. The good thing is the aggression level that you're shooting with. You've definitely been practicing, so I like that stuff. It's just, all right, let's take a look at where you are and move to the next level. All right, so well done, and let me know if you have questions.